If you're looking to jump into the world of 3D printing without needing to put too much hands-on or actually build a printer, then the ANYCUBIC 4MAX Pro might actually have you covered. It comes in a variant of between white or black, and it is a pretty cool printer because it is actually fully enclosed with a door that opens and closes to actually keep your prints nice and warm. And I'll get a little bit into that in a minute. So let's jump right into this one. Right, so this, my friends, is a very huge box. So big, it doesn't even fit inside of the frame. And I am shooting at the widest angle that I can on this 16mm full frame camera. And it still can't capture this box. It is on top of this desk, and there is kind of a mess here. But let's keep on going, and let's see what's inside. What actually comes in this Anycubic. This is not new to me because I do have two of these guys. I unboxed one of them already, but you'll get to experience what actually comes inside of the box. So it comes really well packaged with this really nice heavy duty material and corners to protect it from getting damaged during shipping. So they did a very good job packaging this guy, and I like that. So let's go ahead and get this stuff out of here. I'm gonna need to take it off of the desk and really work the way through this box. This is the white model of this Anycubic 4MAX Pro. As you can see, really well packaged. Here you get your user's manual, power cable, an actual roll of filament. This looks like at least one of those smaller half rolls, so you do get some filament. Nice to see that you get something. And more packaging. Really hard to get this out. And we got the printer, so let's take it off the desk so we could get this thing out of here. Goes the printer. So here we have the actual front of the printer, and this is how it looks coming right out of the box. You have a couple of things here you want to get rid of. Some of it is this actual film. And I really do like the packaging. They really did a great job with that. And there are a couple of things on here that you want to get rid of. Obviously there's foam up front. We need to get rid of that. And there is this dome to cover up the top of the actual printer. This will definitely help you when you're printing high temperature plastics. Excuse me for the background noise. I'm actually running a print on my Ultimaker clone that I put together. And more packaging inside. They really packaged this thing really well. Not that easy. It is foam. And there are more components inside. So we have a whole bag of goodies. We'll take a look at that in a second. This paper can be used for leveling. Not anymore. It is wrinkled up. I messed that up on the way out. This heated bed here with the Anycubic ultrabase, really nice. Let's take a look at the bag of goodies, and then we can take a look at the rest of the printer. So in this bag right here, you will get a USB cable to connect your printer to your computer if you so do want to do that. Or if you do want to do that, you got your filament sensor here for when your filament runs out. A pair of gloves. You get actual spatula removal tool for prints if you want to remove things from the bed. Not the highest quality one I've ever seen, but at least you get one. You get a nozzle cleaning needle. I call these acupuncture needles, nozzle cleaning needles. And you have your filament holder. Actual SD card and a SD card reader. It doesn't tell you the size on the outside, which I find to be weird, but I think it's an 8 GB card, if I'm not mistaken. An extra hot end. I really don't like this hot end because it seems like it's PTFE lined all the way through to the bottom, and that's fine if you're only printing PLA. This will be 100% fine, it's not a big deal. But if you want to do some high temperature printing, you want to go all metal. And I do have a couple of videos coming up in the future on how to fully convert this to an all metal hot end. I'm on the works of making that happen. So let's see how that works out. And some tensioning springs in case you need them. More tools. You have pretty much everything you need to get this thing up and running. A nice set of tweezers, some Allen keys, Allen wrenches, another one of these guys. I have a couple of these now. Also have a couple of printers, so that's what you hear in the background. And a little screwdriver. And this looks like like a wrench. Is this for the hot end? Nope, this is not for the hot end, but it's there. You have all of the tools you need to get started. So it comes with pretty much everything. All the tools are included, and let's take a look at the rest of the packaging. Obviously there's the LCD up here, and there's plastic on it, so let's take that off. And like magic, we are here at the top of the actual printer, and I want to take this time to actually give you a fair warning. There will be zip ties everywhere up here. You want to make sure you remove all of the zip ties, and there are also these little standoffs or these little things that protect this printer during shipping. They're in the back of the actual hot end, back over in the corners, and there are these two guys. You want to go ahead and remove the zip ties that hold these things down and remove them. These are not necessary. They are for shipping. Get rid of those things and you should be good. So now let's take a look at the back of the printer. And if we flip it to the other side, I just want to show you some important stuff. So that actual filament holder that I already have set up here is this guy. It just pops in right here. And this goes like that. Then you will take your filament and feed it right through this guy, which is a filament sensor, which is held on with two M3 screws that go right here that were supplied. So make sure you look for that. Screw these things in, feed your filament right through here into your Bowden tube that goes right above it, and you should be ready to go. It's that simple. It's nothing out of this planet. It's not rocket science. So on the side here, we're going to have our power plug, and we're also going to have our on and off switch. Now there are two on and off switches on this printer. There's this guy here that needs to be on, and there's also one up in the front that's more like a soft power on and off, because this printer has a feature where if it finishes printing, it waits a couple of minutes and it shuts itself off, which is really nice for safety. You don't want this thing running if you're no longer printing. And that's this guy here. This guy is the secondary power switch. So if you're in the United States or in Canada, then you want to make sure that you set up this printer in order to actually work properly with your power. And that would be 115 volts according to this printer. I've seen it on other objects where it says 110 or 120. Either way, it needs to be on 115 if you're in the States or in Canada. So let's go ahead and make sure you guys flip that switch. I already did. This printer is up and running right now, but let's get some shaky cam footage so I can show you a little bit better how that will actually look. It is that switch right there in that corner, that needs to be flipped. So you do that, flip that switch, make sure it's at 115, and you will go ahead and have the fabulous ability of using this printer. I don't know why I used the word fabulous, but hey, it is what it is. So I want to take a second to let you know that in order to actually feed filament through this printer, like any other 3D printer, you need to make sure you actually preheat the actual unit, and then you can feed it through this Bowden tube. Even though this is a direct drive printer, this is Bowden tube to guide the actual filament into this Titan styled E3D kind of modified extruder that this printer uses. Now, once you guide it through here, you feed it through here, make sure you're preheated, and you will be able to print. I did do a bunch of test prints in order to actually show you guys the print quality that this thing is capable of producing. I did a couple that actually have a few user errors. So this guy here has a couple of lines I'm not sure if you can see, and that's due to this not being adjusted properly. You need to adjust the tension on your Titan extruder right here on the left hand side of your hot end on your print head in order to actually get the correct amount of pressure to push the filament through the nozzle. If you don't do that properly, you will have prints where you will have sections that look lighter than others, and that's because of under extrusion. So you want to make sure you go ahead and fix that, because this model did not print very well. And this is my benchy. And at the bottom, of course, this is something I might have mentioned or not before. You do have the Anycubic ultrabase here, and sometimes if you're too close to the actual ultrabase, you can have sections that come out with this pattern at the bottom because of the actual ultrabase. We can put that one aside, and then I was tweaking around with the printer. I did do another test. Again, this one had a little bit of under extrusion and a little bit of burns because this one was printed in PETG. So it did a good job, but I need to get the actual temperature settings proper so that I don't get any of those burn marks on the PETG prints. And PETG is a particular filament that I like to use, but especially on white, if you don't have your settings proper in order to print it, you will get these brown marks. Like they just don't look good, and that's due to the temperature of the actual filament. It gives you some of these marks on there. So I need to tune that properly, and that should go away. I did another test print. This one came out much better than the first one after I adjusted the actual extruder so that it could extrude correctly, and I don't have as much of those marks right there that didn't look very good on the first benchy. This is the third one. And then finally I switched over to better filament, and I got this guy out of here, which is this green benchy, which was printed fairly nicely, and I'm very happy with the result. So this printer is capable of doing very good, detailed, really nice print. So I'm more than happy with the way it prints. Now, can it do better? Absolutely. So how can we make this printer any better? Well, the first thing I would like to get rid of in order to make this guy a lot better is this. This is the actual included hot end. This is the spare that comes with the printer, which is really nice to know that they care enough. Anycubic cares enough to actually give you spare parts, which is really nice. Not many printing companies do that. They will charge you for every little thing they can get out of you. This, though, is one of the drawbacks that you will have when printing with this printer. And it's not that you can't do anything with it. It does print well enough, especially if you're printing low temperature plastics. But when you start getting into the territory of printing something like ABS, PETG for long periods of time, and then you want to push into the territories of polycarbonate and nylon, then I do not recommend sticking with this hot end, because you see this tube, that's inside of the hot end goes all the way down into the actual heating block, and this will deteriorate and it can release fumes and all sorts of stuff, just bad things, or just break down over time quickly, especially if you're printing at 240 degrees and above. This is not recommended. The first thing you would like to do is get rid of this hot end and replace it with a hot end that can actually sustain those high temperatures, which would be a all metal hot end. Now, I did start designing an actual carriage, and this is my original blank slate design for this carriage right here. This is the bottom portion of it, and after doing more modeling on Fusion 360, I actually came up with a better design, and this would let you mount onto the actual gears here. This whole mechanism would be replaced, and your bearings will ride right there. So it has a spot for everything, and it even has these little notches so that you can use a zip tie to secure everything down and make sure that it doesn't move and come off of the actual rails here. Now, this would be my basic solution. I am still working on this prototype, and I will be making videos on how this whole thing works. This was the replacement head to this thing right here, the cover. So it would basically mount into itself like this. Now, I did actually remodel this whole piece because I found out why there is a curve here and this won't work, and it's because it will crash into the front of the printer and this will not work at all. But besides that, stay tuned if you want to see more on how to upgrade your Anycubic 4MAX Pro to my project, which is the 4MAX Ultra with an all-metal hot end. I do have a V6 I could throw in here. I'm waiting for a couple of other hot ends that I will be testing with this design, and once I have those on hand, you will be seeing much more videos on how to get this whole mechanism upgraded so you can turn this into your ultimate high temperature printing machine, which is exactly why I picked this guy up. I did get it on GearBest, and if you're quick enough, you will be able to still pick this up at the moment that I am speaking for $299, which is a total bargain. I can't express that anymore. You're going to get an enclosed printer. It does have a dome cover. It keeps in all of that heat, and there's not too many printers you can pick up at that price point with that. There is also down here, if you can see it, which is going to be very hard to see, there is a filter for air, and there's a fan down there to circulate that air. That's good to see in a printer at this price point. I haven't seen anything like this. I'm not sure why not many people have been covering this printer. I feel like I found a hidden gem. If you want to pick up this printer at an excellent price, it's definitely worth looking at GearBest. They did ship this from a United States location, which was weird. I got it in less than a week. So definitely worth looking at. I looked at it earlier today. They only had the white one available, unfortunately, if you were looking for the black one. But this is also on Amazon. I will leave links in the description below, but your best deal is going to definitely be on GearBest. So if you want to pick it up and you want to join me on upgrading this thing into a monster of a beast, the Anycubic 4MAX Pro converted into the 4MAX Ultra, stay tuned for those videos. But before I go on, I do want to give a little bit of the technical specifications for anyone that actually wanted those, because they were impossible to find. I actually dissected this printer in order to get all the information that I have about it right now. So for the main controller, you have an 8-bit controller. It is running Marlin firmware on a 12-volt system. The power supply is a 12-volt Meanwells. They didn't cheap out Meanwells power supply. If you know a little bit about 3D printers, you would know Meanwells makes good power supplies. And of course, they did need to cut corners in some places, which would be like the hot end. I mean, you can't get everything for that price, but they did include this good enough hot end to get you up and running. And you got the ultrabase heated bed. That's basically a glass bed with a texture on it that Anycubic uses over the last couple of years, or the last year, for so long. I'm not 100% sure how long they've been using that, but it is good. It holds your prints fairly well, and I'm happy with that. Besides that, that's pretty much all the information I did find. If you have any questions on any technical specifications on this printer, by all means, leave me a comment below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you because I will be dissecting this printer again. Now I have to say that I really do like this printer. I also have a Creality Ender 3 Pro, and I really do like that printer as well. And I feel like they both serve different purposes. I bought this printer with the purpose of actually turning it into a powerful machine that can print filaments such as nylon and hopefully even polycarbonate, because of its nature of being enclosed and having that dome at the top and the filter at the bottom to filter the air. And I thought that for the price, you can't go wrong, especially just for the chassis, because I was actually looking at the Ender 5 with a full enclosure, and that requires a lot of work. But this guy is already fully enclosed. Now, I also think it's a great printer for somebody that's just getting into 3D printing. Even though 3D printing isn't the easiest thing, and you will always have a learning curve when you're jumping into 3D printing, I hope I can make that a little bit better for you guys if you're planning on getting into 3D printing throughout the next series of videos that have to do with 3D printing. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about 3D printing and the Anycubic 4MAX Pro, along with a couple of other printers that I actually own, including my resin Elegoo Mars printer that I will be making videos about. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already, and hit that like button because it really does help the channel, and I know that I'm doing something positive and it's helping you guys. If you have any questions or comments, by all means feel free to leave them right below. Like always, you guys have a great one.